Sup? Welcome to the Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. This is episode number 13, and I am Adam Choit. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram, and I am at Adam Choit on Instagram as well if you want to follow me. And of course, I have no affiliation with the band. This is not an official podcast or anything. I'm just a fan. So, today's guest is Israeli-born guitarist, composer, and music producer Ori Naftaly. After founding the Ori Naftaly Band, Ori eventually moved to Memphis and established Southern Avenue, a blues and soul band. We talk his musical journey, from his dad and mentors in Israel, to touring in the U.S. and living the road life, to being nominated for a Grammy. And of course, we talk about what a thrill it was to open for and tour with TTB for a few shows in 2019. And of course, I'm a huge fan of Ori and Southern Avenue myself, having seen them live a couple of times now when they've come through Los Angeles. And I've been following them for a while on social media as well now. Thanks to my buddy Steve, who initially introduced me to the band, I want to say in 2016 or so. Anyway, let's just get into it. Here's Ori Naftaly. So it's good to see you today, Ori Naftaly. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
How you holding up during this super fun 2020?
Good. Just trying to keep up with the kids, really.
Yeah. Have you been playing a lot of music lately? Like, are you I mean, you guys have done like some online shows I've seen, but what about? Are you writing anything now? Are you guys working on material?
We thought when this started, end of February, beginning of March, and then I kind of felt that this is not going to be over soon, and we were really concerned about travel restrictions. So we just came back to Memphis early. We kind of cut the tour by, I think we had 10 more shows, and we just dropped it and came back. And 5 days later, the travel ban got into effect. So we were lucky and smart. And the first thing we did when we came back, we were like, okay, well, we can write a lot of music, right? We can be very productive while at home, but that's not the case. With two kids around, and it's been almost 5 months now, I guess. March, April, May, June. So 4 months of just taking care of them all day. You know, they wake us up, they won't go to sleep. And by the end of the day, we're so exhausted that we don't have a lot of time as we thought we would, but we're still being productive. You know, we're doing a lot of live stream shows, and we are writing, of course, but for some reason we write more when we're on the road. I just read that about. I was just reading about you guys yesterday, and I'm like, saw some interview, and you said, yeah, you wrote the last album was mostly written on the road, and that was because we didn't have a choice, really.
Yeah. Is that where the inspiration comes from? Do you feel more inspired when you're on the road, or?
Yeah, we do, like, a lot of our shows are with other bands, supporting other, like, more established artists that have been around for longer, and they inspire us. When we do a festival, we did Lock-In 2 years ago, and we got to, see so many, like, the Dead and Company, Galactic, all these bands. I mean, I don't want to name drop, just all these amazing bands that inspire you. And then you kind of write songs based on your experiences of watching play. So it's not like it's not like our personal experiences on the road. It's more about the shows that we get to see when we play these festivals, and we play these concert series and supporting other bands. So other contemporary bands really inspire us.
Yeah, your next album is going to be all about kids. It's going to be like a family album. Is that what it's going to be?
We did write a couple of lullabies.
Lullabies that, like, for your kids, or for actually for the release?
I don't know what for. I don't know what for yet,
but they're written.
Yeah, like it's just it's. No, I mean, we have a lot of material from our first album that was never released, from our second album that was never released, and then we write a bunch of new songs. So It's we have a lot of material. We just need to agree what fits an album, really.
Yeah, cool. Why don't we get into your life a little bit and tell me about like the early days in Israel and when you first started playing guitar? Because you've been playing since you're 5 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what inspired you, and were you awesome at guitar right away, or did you have to work really hard to get good? How talented were you at that young of an age?
Well, the first, and this is a good lesson for parents. At first I wasn't into it. I mean, when you're in first grade, second grade, it's too hard to really practice. You don't like to do something that is not fun. So my dad and mom, but mostly my dad, was really hard on me on practicing, and we had a lot of arguments, and I remember it pretty good. And then at some point when I was 8, I think it kind of or 9. And I'm saying 8 or 9 because I'm guessing about fourth grade, it kind of hit me, and I was like, okay, well, I think the first time was when I went to school and played the guitar for the kids, and my class was like, wow, you know how to play, you know how to do something that is not just like, that takes practice. And then I thought that was very cool, that I have a skill that no other kid has. And that really got me into taking it more seriously. So once other kids were impressed by what I can do, it really kind of triggered me. And I was like, okay, let's impress them some more. And that's when I took it more seriously. Of course, I don't know, when I was 15 or 16, that's when I took it to another level of seriousness. It's just the more I matured, the more I grew up, I appreciated it more.
Yeah, did your dad say "I told you so," or what did your dad say when he later on when you were 9, 10 years old or whatever?
My dad is really old school. On one hand, he's like, practice your guitar. And then when you finish high school, it's like you need to go to like a college and do like a business degree and get a real job, because music is not a real, is not a real profession. You don't want to be poor all your life. So it's like,
Yeah.
on one hand, he was like, play guitar. And on the other hand, he's like, don't play guitar, but, play guitar, but this is a hobby. It's not something you can take and do seriously. So, and until this day, especially these Corona days, it would be like, just get a job, just do, go. And I can do a lot of things. I'm also a system engineer for Microsoft and a programmer, like front end developer. So I write websites and applications and stuff like that. So I always had these two worlds.
Are you doing that right now currently? Are you doing the
Yeah. I mean,
programming?
I'm not doing it as I should, but I'm definitely doing it. Yeah.
Hey, you're a man of many talents.
I try.
What kind of music were you into when you were real young, 5, 6 years old? It sounds like your father had musical influence on you.
Yeah, he loved just rock and roll, just music from a lot of blues, a lot of jazz, a lot of British rock, and he has albums of all the bands that me and you like. I grew up listening to a lot of ZZ Top, Buddy Guy, Muddy Waters, Allman Brothers. It was really, I grew up in that environment. So it was only when I got into middle school I realized that, hey, there's other kids that like this music too. I was in my own universe for a while.
Yeah. Were you playing, when did you start playing like the jazz or the classical and some of the other stuff outside of the rock and blues?
All my life I tried. My mentor, I had two mentors, but my first one for about a decade, from the age of 8 or 9 to 18. His name is Tony Pearson. He grew up in Alabama and moved to New York, played with the Four Tops, James Brown, Tina Turner. Fell in love with Tina Turner's makeup artist, which was Israeli. And then he ended up moving to Israel. And then that's how I met him. So I have this amazing dude that is out of this world when you're thinking about Israel. Somebody that came from America and played with the best of the best, and he somehow found himself in Israel. And my dad found him, and he was the biggest, really mentor, inspirational person to me. He really made me who I am as a musician, as far as my phrasing and my approach, and the soulfulness of playing guitar. So I owe a lot of it to him. So yeah.
What specifically, if anything, like, do you recall, like, he told you or showed you, or you watched him do, or you listened to him do, that like helped you achieve more soulfulness in your playing?
Well, it's a
Just
great
listening
advice.
day after day.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, but I think he had this mantra, this thing that he just kept repeating every time that I did something that wasn't good. You can say he always said, "Don't." When you say "don't overplay," that's a very kind of broad, general comment to say, a statement. Don't overplay. But what he meant and what he always said is play what you can speak, and don't play what you can't speak. Sometimes you speak very quickly, and sometimes you speak very slow. If you can't sing it, don't play it.
Yeah.
And that really put me in kind of in a place where every time that I went overboard, like I was playing blah, 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 just things that are too fast and don't really make sense musically, to him, then he would stop me and he would say, "Hey, like, can you speak this? Can you say that?" And I would be like, "No." So he's like, "So don't play it." And that's one of the biggest advice that he ever gave me, really, is just people listen to you when you have something to say. And if they cannot understand what you're saying, then they won't listen to you. And you have a lot of amazing guitar players that play very fast, and people really, really like them. But they like them more because a lot of people like to see other people do things that they can't. It's a thing. That's why people like to see other people play video games really good, because they're like, "Ooh, I can't do that. I want to see somebody else do that," right? So that's not where I am as a musician and my approach. Like, I'm not trying to impress everybody. I'm trying to communicate with everybody through my playing. So through my phrasing, through my the attitude that I have. So that's the biggest advice I think he ever gave me.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome stuff. Because I play a little guitar myself, and that's just good stuff to hear for sure. And I've heard the "if you can say it, you can play it" kind of thing. But that's what I'm impressed by is guitar players who have the ability to communicate, such as yourself and such as Derek, like, who play with a vocal quality and communicate through the music.
Derek
and
is
have
the
soul.
perfect example. Derek is he will never play fast for more than 5 seconds. If he goes on a fast run, it will never last long. It will always last the amount of time that he can breathe. If he's out of air, then he will stop and he will start. It's like very, very, it's like a conversation that he's having. And it's okay to talk fast, and it's okay to be angry or to be upset and talk. But then you need to take a break and breathe for a second. And that's what he does with his playing, and that's why he's one of the best that ever lived.
Oh, for sure. Tell me more about like your years and time in Israel, kind of before right before you came to the States. What do you remember about like your final? How old were you when you moved to the U.S.?
24, 25.
Yeah. So like your early 20s. Tell me maybe with some highlights of those years.
I mean, I was always on the computer, whether I was playing or practicing or jamming to music or playing video games and breaking the computer down and assemble it back up and mess with things. So throughout my teenage and my early 20s, I was always involved in music and in computers. Finished high school and actually didn't go to the army, even though it's mandatory. I got out of that and immediately went to a music college and got a degree in composition and arranging, and learned how to write music and really how to arrange music.
Like popular music, like popular kind
yeah,
of music, yeah.
yeah, jazz. It's the jazz department, but it's not really like I wasn't in a. I didn't go to learn how like the guitar department, the guitar kind of. I don't know how to call it. It was I went to in my class I had people that played various different instruments. Everybody learned how to compose and how to arrange and how to write music, regardless of their instrument. So that was my focus, writing music. I love creating things from scratch. It's really something that I like. I like to build something and then see how it becomes successful or good or beneficial to society in any way.
Sure.
So I did that, and then I needed to, and I was playing all around Israel with other bands. I was like a pickup guitar player for some popular bands in Israel. I did weddings. I did all this, all the usual stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then and then I realized that I'm not making enough money and I needed to get a real job. And then I went and just started working as a computer technician. And then after a year or two, I realized that I need more. And I went and did a few certifications, like a Microsoft system engineer to work on servers and
were you still playing guitar at this time? Like,
all the time. I would play it in the evening, at night. I will study and go to like this certification college thing during the day. I would work all the time and play all the time. But of course, during the time, I wasn't in 4 different bands like I used to when I was not working.
Yeah.
But I just kept it to the things that were important for me. I used to play with this very popular hip hop artist in Israel. His name was Sagol 59, and he was my main band while I was doing all the computer IT stuff. But that's what I did. I just became a system engineer, worked for different companies and stuff like that. And long story short, I just felt that I was making a lot of money. I had a car, I had a laptop, I had 2 phones. I felt like I'm already in my 40s, even though I'm 21.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is not the life I want. So, I said, okay, I'm going to quit this job, teach guitar, and make almost the same amount of money. It did take me a year, of course, to get enough students to say that. But I went on that adventure, and then just became a full-time guitar teacher. And that's kind of what I did up until I left to Memphis. I was
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did you still have aspirations like professional guitar and being in bands when you were teaching it? Because you wanted to just make music. It sounded like you want to make music your primary source of income. But when you started teaching guitar, did you also say, someday I'm going to be in a band, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that for myself, like my music
always
career?
It never changed, really. Even I was teaching between, kids get out of school at 1 or 2 or 3 p.m. I started teaching between 4 and 8 when they need to go to sleep. So every day I would have 4 hours of teaching, and I would get 5 or 6 students, and then I would do that for 6 days a week. So I had about 20 to 30 students a week, but that was only 4 hours a day. So during the day, I would practice, I would play, I would go to rehearsals, and then in the evening, I would go and do gigs. Around that time is where I started my solo band, and I stopped playing with other people, except like a few that were just good friends and I wanted to play with. But I stopped looking for gigs, and I started my own solo band, which was like a blues band, and got gigs for my own. And we were pretty successful. I produced my first album, and it was like a cover album of a bunch of old school kind of blues songs. And a few I recorded, like I had Almost Cut My Hair, and I had a few other that are not like strict. It was just like the music that I like, and I recorded that, and that album was chosen as the best debut album in Israel and
That's awesome.
in the Netherlands. So I had some success with that. We went on tours in Europe a couple of times, like 10 to 20 dates in Europe. And when I was in Europe touring with my band, my solo band, all Israelis, while still teaching, but just, I told them I'm on tour. I heard about the International Blues Challenge in Memphis that the Israeli Blues Society is doing. So if you win the Israeli Blues Society competition, you get to represent Israel at the International Blues Challenge in Memphis. And then you basically get to play and meet and compete, against other bands all over the world in Memphis. So I did that. We won the Israeli competition. And long story short, because it was not easy to find together $7,000 to fly 5 band members and hotels and rentals, to get to Memphis. But I ended up doing that. And we went to Memphis and reached the semifinals. Met a lot of amazing people that I'm friends with until this day. And that was 2013. And came back to Israel, and I wanted more. I was like, okay, well, can I book a tour in the United States? Can I tour with all the contacts that I made? And yes, I did. I came back the following June of 13 and had a month long of a tour with all Israeli band members. And that was amazing. Came back to Israel, recorded my second solo album. And then I said, okay, let's go on another tour. And then I went on another tour that I managed to book for 2 or 3 months almost.
In the US again?
Yeah. And when I moved, when I left Israel for that second tour, I had a feeling that this is not I had a feeling that I'm doing something very big and I should really prepare myself for a long stay there. So I sold all my stuff. I got rid of my apartment. I sold my car. I sold a bunch of guitars, amps, and basically and then moved everything to my parents that I had left, and just took a suitcase, a guitar, a few pedals, and just flew to that second tour. And I just kept booking myself. So, I arrived in October and with shows until December, and then booked January, and then booked February and March, and just kept going. And that's basically the moment that I relocated. I didn't realize that I relocated only until 2015, when I was like, okay, I've been here for 2 years now. I think I relocated,
Well, you must have rented an apartment or something.
No.
I kept touring?
Because you can't just do a show I wasn't a local Memphis musician. I didn't move and do just local gigs. And I toured from Colorado to Florida to Minnesota to New York, Texas. I was everywhere. I was with my solo band. We toured all over America. So it wasn't
awesome.
I lived at the hotel and in the van. And when we did have a couple of weeks off here and there, I was in Memphis with friends, so that's really, that from going to the International Blues Challenge in Memphis, and basically that was really the beginning of me relocating to America. But it wasn't like, okay, I'm moving to Memphis or I'm moving to. It wasn't a decision. It was a process that started and just eventually became a reality.
And what about the forming of Southern Avenue?
That's around 2015. After 2 years of touring with the band, the members began to really be kind of homesick or a bit worn, from all the touring. And I needed a change, and I was the only person that really wanted to stay. and keep this dream going, because I was making all my dreams come true. From my standpoint, being an Israeli, it's like, oh, I just want to go visit America. And then it's like, okay, I want to play shows in America. Okay, I want to tour in America. Okay, I want to like headline festivals. Okay, I want to, play with local musicians and learn. Like I really made all my dreams come true on that level.
That's awesome. Did you sing? Did you sing in your solo band?
No. I had another singer. I don't sing. I really try not to.
You try not to. I got you.
Yeah, that really doesn't really make sense. But yeah, in 2015, I basically I needed a change, and I looked for another lead singer, and I looked for somebody that writes, not just sings and performs, but also writes. So I asked around in Memphis, who's like the best singer in Memphis? Who's the person that can lead my band? And a lot of people recommended Tyranny. And we met, and at first she was definitely a bit, like, I don't know how to say it, but she was a bit concerned with she was just gigging in Memphis all the time. So it was like, okay, let's go on the road. So it wasn't like an immediate, like, yeah, let's go. It was a few shows in Arkansas, a few shows here, a few shows there. And then she basically, right when I hired her, she said that she wants her sister TK to play the drums. And the drummer I had was like a temporary guy that was just filling in. So basically Tyranny and TK joined my band. And we toured, and a few months into touring, I realized that we're onto something a lot bigger than Ori Naftaly Band. And I suggested them that if we form and if we make a new band, we can all be partners. It's not me paying you, it's you paying yourself, and we can just write music and start something fresh. And they agreed, and they liked the idea. We really had fun, the three of us, working together, and we felt comfortable. And in the summer of 2015, we had like a show in Colorado that was the last show as my solo band. And then a few days later, another place in Colorado was the first show of Southern Avenue. And we just became Southern Avenue. That's how we started, really. Like, hired them for my band, and then we kind of retired my solo band and just changed the name and rebranded for Southern Avenue. That's how we really started.
Good stuff. And what about the early days of Southern Avenue? What were some of the highlights and of that era?
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. For so many reasons. I don't know where to start, but like, first
2016, 2017, like
it's deeper than that.
First, I know what you mean.
Yeah. First thing that I have to say, and it's good to say during these times, the biggest obstacle was that I had a white, like, Israeli singer as my solo band, and now I had a black girl and leading the band. So that was the first thing. It was like, okay, now this band changed. This is not the Ori Naftaly Band I know. Now it's like Ori with three other black people. Okay, and that was the first time where I actually felt the difference, and the kind of the situation that black people are in. And I grew up on really American music, blues, black people music,
sure.
The roots. So for me, I was like, I don't feel white. I feel like I'm an Arab Jew.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm from the Middle East. I grew up eating falafel and hummus and speaking Arabic with a lot of people. Like, I'm not I don't feel like a European, you know what I mean? Like I'm not that. Like my grandfather was at the Holocaust. Like this is not, I'm feeling just as vulnerable as they feel, right? So I felt really
especially
close
in
to
a new
them.
country, I'm guessing.
Yes, exactly. I'm an immigrant. I'm not from. I wasn't even born in America. So for me, it was very normal. But then I started seeing other people's responses. So with Southern Avenue, it was the first, and it was the first thing was taking all these gigs that I had with my solo band and convincing these buyers and the promoters and the venue owners and the booking agents to now book this band, which was completely different. And it was 5 times better. You know, like it was so much, it's from the start, from the get-go, we were better than my solo band ever was with my Israeli, like, musicians. Not that they're not good, they're amazing and they're talented, but playing blues music, soul music, rock and roll, kind of R&B, groovy, funky stuff. Like, come on, you know, like Tyranny is one of the best lead singers I've ever worked, witnessed, saw, regardless of the fact that she's like with me, working with me. She's just that. I went to the best singer in Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, this is where Tina Turner grew up. This is where Aretha Franklin grew up. This is where like some of the best female vocalists grew up. So this is like a hotbed of musicians. This is like this is the factory. Okay. This is
No doubt.
You know, so no surprise on that. But so that was the first challenge with the Southern Avenue, was convincing all the other. I had to really restart a lot, and that was not easy. We were playing, 2015 and 16, we were really, you know, we had this few shows. We played a lot in Memphis, of course, a lot of gigs, bars, restaurants. We played 4 or 5 shows in Memphis a week. No more touring because I couldn't book the band. The promoters didn't really want to book Southern Avenue. They didn't know what we were. They're like, oh, but where's the Ori Naftaly Band or whatnot? They weren't really up to my contacts. Weren't really up to accepting the change. So
That's
we
hard.
so we just ended up playing in Memphis most of the time, all of the time, really. And then something happened. I convinced the girls and our bass player Daniel at the time. I convinced them, and Jeremy, our keyboard player. I convinced them that we should go to the International Blues Challenge again and represent Memphis. And they were like, no, we don't do, what is this competition? Like battle of the bands? Like what the hell? Like, you know, and we're from Memphis. We don't need to compete against people from Ohio and Norway and, you know, and whatever, and Australia. Like, you know, if that's not what we're about. So I convinced them, explained to them how important it is to make new contacts and for people to see what we are and what we do.
Get exposure.
And they agreed, and we went to the challenge, and we reached the finals, and we were by far the most popular band in that competition in 2016. That really blew up kind of in so many ways. We got a lot of offers, festivals, shows, and we started also stuff in Europe because a lot of European promoters came and saw us, and they had no idea that I had a solo band. They had no idea that there was anything like the Ori Naftaly Band ever exists. Some of them did, but most of them, out of 10 promoters, I only had 2 that knew Ori Naftaly Band, while the rest were not aware.
You got a clean slate.
Yeah, clean slate. And then basically, so that was in January, February 2016. And then in March, something really interesting happened. Well, just going back for a second, for that International Blues Challenge, we recorded a demo, an EP with 5 songs that I wrote a couple by myself, and then the other three I wrote with Tyranny. And we went into the International Blues Challenge with that EP, right? That was like our business card. So we already had something recorded. I had to sell my trailer. I had to like ask my dad for a loan. Like, it was not easy, but I needed that business card, because today records in a lot of times are just business cards.
Yeah.
You know, in that situation that we were in, of course. So in March, something very interesting happened. We played a gig in Memphis. It was 1 a.m. and a very small bar, and it was St. Patrick's Day, actually. And we were, I think, 3 songs to last. Like, we were about to get done, and then 2 people came in the bar. Boo Mitchell, which is William Mitchell's son, like a famous, legendary producer in Memphis. Everything that is Al Green, like very Royal Studios is the studio name. Very, very popular, very famous, and super talented producer. He came in with the president of Concord Records, and Concord is a very established label based out of LA, that have anybody from Santana to Derek, Susan and Derek, to a lot of it's an enormous company with amazing artists that I've been listening to all my life. And they came in the bar super drunk after a day of recording, and they saw us. And Boo already heard about us, because when we got to the finals at the International Blues Challenge, we got a lot of press. So all of Memphis knew that there's a new band, Southern Avenue. They're super hip, they're super cool, whatever. So Boo knew us, but John Burke, which is the president of Concord, did not. So Boo was like, yes, this is Southern Avenue. We got lucky that they're playing. Let's have fun. Like, it was very, Boo was very proud to show John Burke, coming from LA, that this is the Memphis vibe. Like, he was happy that we were at that club playing. And John really fell in love. Really, he was like, I wouldn't say it 2 years ago. I would say that he really liked us, but we're such good friends now that even though we're not on Concord anymore, he left them too, but like, blah, blah, blah. But we're really close. John Burke is really close to us. And he just fell in love with us, and he was like, this is amazing. So we talked to him, and we kind of became friends, and we told him we want to go to the studio the day after and hang out. He was recording Melissa Etheridge at Royal Studios. Melissa Etheridge, I don't know if you know, she recorded an album of classic soul songs, classic stack songs, and stuff like that. Just in 2016, basically. It was released in 2017, and he was recording her. So she was at the studio. So we just went down to the studio, met Melissa Etheridge. It was a lot of fun. It was she's super, super nice and sweet and welcoming. And we just hanged out. And at the end of that day, we spent 6 hours there, and because they had food and stuff, so we just really hanged out.
There you go.
And then at the end of the day, he came to me and Tyranny, and he said, Concord owns Stax Records. And Stax is one of the most legendary labels in American history. And it's super important in Memphis because of the, civil rights movement and the atmosphere that was in Memphis during that time. Stax was the first label, I don't know if the first in the country, one of the first in the country to have integrated, white people and black people recording together, working together. Steve Cropper working with Al Jackson, and that Stax is really something that a lot of Memphians are proud of. It's a label that really makes Memphis proud. So we were like, really? I thought we told him we thought that Stax was done. We thought that Stax was closed when Isaac Hayes closed it in the late 70s, early 80s, or something like that. And he said, no, we bought them a few years ago, and we own the catalog. And we're releasing new music on Stax. Marcus King released an album on Stax. Melissa Etheridge released that soul album on Stax. And Hathaway, I don't remember her first name, Layla Hathaway, I think, released also. So he was like, yeah, the label is alive. I think that I want to sign you to Stax. And we were like, whoa. This is a bit overwhelming. You need to talk to our manager. So the conversation started, and within 3 months, we were the first Memphis band to sign on Stax in 40 years.
It's awesome. Wow.
And we became instantly famous in Memphis. All the news, the newspapers, the magazines, everybody just talked about the new Memphis band that Stax signed. And John Burke told us that he looked for a couple of years for a Memphis band to sign, but he couldn't find a band that fits the criteria. And we are very kind of, I'm from Israel. I'm not black. Our bass player is white. Tierney, TK, and Jeremy are black, and we work together. We love each other. We're a family. And we really represent what Stax used to be in the 70s and the 60s, which is, music has no boundaries. In Stax, musicians would go and record all day together. And then when they go to eat and lunch, they would have to sit at separate sections of the restaurant. So that atmosphere that used to be is kind of, even though it's gone now, it's still important for him, and I think that I agree with him, for Stax to represent that diversity, to represent that people from all different, kind of spectrums of life, and people from different backgrounds come together to make music. And we signed on Stax in I think around the spring of 2016. And we released our debut album, which had the first 5 songs we recorded for the International Blues Challenge that I mentioned, the EP. And he really loved those songs. And then we wrote 5 more, and we released our debut album. So the crazy thing here is that we formed the band in the summer of 2015. And within 7 months, we were signed on Stax.
It's amazing.
And that's the crazy thing, that really a lot of things made me believe in God, but and destiny. But this is one of the most kind of main reasons that made me believe that there is something there, there is a God, and that we couldn't really even cope with the speed of things, because we formed the band, we just got to know each other, we're already signed on a major label, and now we need to do good music, write good music, and go and tour. So that was really hard, financially too. We had to go on tours that nobody knew us in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, nobody knew us in Columbus, Ohio, nobody knew us in Miami or Jacksonville or Tallahassee or New Orleans or anywhere really. Yeah. So we went on tours where we had not a lot of people come, but we had to really still go on this tour for releasing the album. And then everything started clicking, everything started clicking. 2018 was by far the year that everything changed with, for many reasons. We started playing festivals like Locken and Firefly and Okeechobee and Halloween, and doing all these jam festivals, because we were not a blues band. We were really a jam band that likes to play blues and likes to play soul music and writes their own music. We were not a cover band. So in the jam scene, it's a lot of cover bands that do the covers in a very, very original way, right?
Sure.
But we were, not all of them, of course, but we were like an original band that had very soulful. And the jam scene really needed that. still does, of course. You know, the jam scene needs a diversified group of people playing soul music and jam on these songs for 10 or 15 minutes. And have, so the jam world really liked us. They really embraced us. And I'm so thankful because I listened to jam music all my life. And I'm a big fan. And I think the connection between blues and jam music, you won't have jam music without blues. So we are really important, I think, in the scene for that reason. And that's what we basically did. We just toured all over the country, and that 2018 was really, really good for us. And we got a Blues Music Award nomination for emerging artists and stuff like that. And then in 2020, the Grammy nomination for our second album, and now the coronavirus.
Well, congrats on all the success,
You know?
for sure. So many ups and downs, but you're a hard worker. I can tell. How many shows have you played in your whole life? I mean, when you think about it, must be thousands.
Yeah. But it's not the quantity; it's the quality. You know, that's all I can say. I mean, it's really it's the quantity. It's the quality. It's not the quantity.
Yeah. You know? Tell me more about how the shows with Derek and Susan and the Tedeschi Trucks shows you guys are working with them. How did that all come together? And tell me all about that.
Well, the shows with them were really, really. I mean, it starts with booking the shows. When we just booked the shows, I was already like, I was stressed. I was like, okay, like, I feel like being nominated for a Grammy didn't matter to me as much as having them approve us and having them want us to support them. It started with my agent telling me that he's applying, like he's, trying to get us a tour with them. And then the next email was like, okay, they are, because what they do, they apparently, I don't know if it's all the time, but apparently they have a system where they have a bunch of bands that they're considering, and then they go and they filter them out until they reach like 3 of them, and then they choose out of them. So at first he was like, okay, I'm applying, I'm trying to get this gig. And then he was like, okay, well, they chose you, and now there's 20 other bands that they're looking at. I'll let you know if we end up at the last 3. And then we ended up at the last 3.
It's like another competition.
Yeah. And then he was like, okay, out of the 3 bands, they chose you. So that was already nerve-wracking. It was like, oh my God. Like, that was like 20 bands to 3 bands to like now us. Like, we got it. So that was already really, really exciting. And then we were just, the main thing for us was be healthy. When you're on the road and you tour all the time, you get sick often. And when you go from the mountains down to the desert, down up to the mountains, and then drive to Florida, you're in basically 5 or 6 different climates within a week or 2. And there's a lot that goes into staying healthy on the road. And we were concerned. The first thing I was like, please, let's be healthy. Like because it's not like we didn't do anything and then we have the tour. We just did the Blues Cruise. We had 2 shows in San Diego. We took a flight to Texas.
It's all 2019.
Yeah. So like we had 5 or 6 shows in a row, and then 2-day break, and then the tour with TTB. So we were really concerned to just be healthy, Tierney not losing her voice, everybody being healthy. And that was really the main thing. I didn't care about playing good. I didn't care about having a good set. I was very comfortable with our show, especially because it's a 20-minute set. So it's not like, or 30 minutes sometimes. It's not like I had to worry about a 2-hour set. It was more about, let's just be healthy. And
right.
Thankfully we were healthy. And then it was like, okay, let's make sure we don't screw anything up while at the gig.
and you can screw a lot of things up. If you don't eat out of your buffet and by accident you eat out of their buffet, then they don't care. Derek doesn't care. Don't get me wrong, but their tour manager does.
Right.
Okay, like Skip is amazing. I love him. He's a great guy, but they're taking themselves seriously. So we were just, okay, let's park where we need to park. Okay, let's go to the room we need to go. Okay, we really tried to be as respectful and easy to work with as possible. And that was what I was thinking about. It's not even about the music. It's just about being, I want Skip, tour manager, and Derek and Susan to say, hey, Southern Avenue is really easy to work with. They're so cool. They're so easy. Everything went so smooth. Let's have them again so we can have another chill, awesome experience and not lose focus because that supporting act that we brought is really taking a lot of our energy out. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Not party with the other band members, and they like to party. Okay, they like to party, and it was like, okay, we were just trying to be very professional, and that's what we did. And the one of the nights, Derek came to me and he was like, hey, you guys want to sit in? And I was like, yeah. Yeah, where do I put my pedal board? And it was where how do we do this? And he was like, don't worry, just talk to so and so, and like he'll help you out. And we jammed with them. The last song on I think it was the third show out of the 5, and we set in it, and it was amazing. And during all of our shows with them, most of them watched our set. Whether it was Derek one time, Susan a couple of times, and then the other band members. I think Kobe, the saxophone player, was there the whole, like every set. He's friends with our bass player. And funny story, our bass player Evan actually played with them a couple of times. When they changed the bass player in 2018, I think. He was
Brandon Boone is the new bass player.
So yeah, before Brandon and Evan, our bass player, are really good friends out of Atlanta. But Evan was basically did an interview. I don't know how do you call it, an interview. He just how do you call it when you get tested for a band?
A tryout. Audition.
Yes, exact audition. I don't know how I forget these words sometimes. But so he auditioned for TTB. He played a show in Boston with them and another show in Atlanta. And so Evan played a show, Brandon played a show, Evan played a show, Brandon played a show, and they ended up choosing Brandon. And of course Evan was disappointed and everything, but it was funny because when we met for the first time, they saw Evan, and Susan was like, Evan, what are you doing here? And he was like, I'm playing with Southern Avenue. And they was like, oh, this is amazing, because they loved Evan. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like they were like, oh, you're not good. It was just, it worked more for them with Brendan. And I get that, I totally get that. Brendan is amazing. So like, it was funny to see how Evan already knows everybody, and, they know him, and it was really nice to see. And yeah, I mean, the shows went amazing, and we had a lot of fun, and we learned so much about everything, the back end and, the front end, all the behind the scenes and then on stage. It was really fun, really, really fun.
So you were able to spend a decent amount of time with Derek, Susan, and the other members of the band while you guys did the shows?
Yeah. We had lunch together. I mean, at the buffet, we sat down and ate together and stuff. But of course, Derek is a mystical, magical person. You know what I mean? It's not like Derek just sits there waiting for you to talk to him. But we definitely did more than I thought we would. But we did spend more time with the other band members in general, just because they were more around.
Sure.
But Derek is a class act, man. He's really it's the one thing I will say about him is that you talk to a lot of famous, popular musicians, and you talk to them for a minute, 30 seconds, sometimes even 15 seconds in a festival or whatever scenario and situation you're in. And they look at you and you see that they're not really there. They're not really listening. They're not
their
really,
eyes.
Yeah, it's their eyes. Like, they're not really with you. And when they are with you, you immediately feel it. And with Derek and Susan, it felt like every time I talked to I went to him and I told him, after we set in, I told him that, this was a dream come true for me, man. I came from Israel. I didn't even think that I'm going to be here. For me, this is way beyond my dreams. I'm a big fan, but I think that I'm a big fan of the way you handle your business. And I kind of gave him a compliment and kind of, I was honest with him. And he was so genuine with his response, and he elaborated on a lot, and he got deeper into some issues and into some stuff that we talked about. And it felt really genuine. And even if I had a 10-second interaction with him, not a whole conversation, it was always so real. And you don't see that from other musicians sometimes, Sometimes you're just in their way and they want to get out of that. They just want to move you away and go where they want to go. But with Derek, even if he was going somewhere and I stopped him and we got kind of it. And it's funny because we shouldn't be surprised that somebody's like that, right? I mean, we shouldn't be surprised when any person reacts in a genuine way. But in today's world, a lot of people think in a way of, okay, are you beneficial for me right now? Can you benefit me in any way? You can't? Okay, I don't want to talk to you. And that's just people in general. And some people are not like that. And Derek and Susan are every band member, every crew member in their family is not like that. They're all super genuine and super real, and you don't see it anywhere, not even in music world, in just any kind of scenario, any kind of environment.
Yeah, it sounds like Derek and Susan, they just set that tone, and they choose wisely the people that they spend their time with who exhibit those same qualities.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I do as well. Like, my band, is exactly the same. And this is why a lot of people, I think, respect us and like us, not because of who we are, not because how good we play, but because when people approach us, we actually talk to them. And I actually made really good friends just by people fans, let's call them fans, coming to me after a show or before a show and started to talk to me about something. And I didn't brush them off. I listened, and then we ended up really being good friends. And I mean, what is life if you're not trying to make new friendships and learn new things? That's just how I see it. And I think that Derek and Susan saw that in us. They saw that, okay, there's a lot of great bands out there, but this band is special. And we are special, I think, Southern Avenue, because we are really the same way that I was taught by my mentor to play what I can speak, and be musical. The same way is the same approach for day-to-day life. Is just be real and try to be a very positive person in other people's lives. And I think they recognized it, and I'm happy for it.
That's awesome. Congratulations with all that success, for sure. And I see those qualities, the approachable quality, being personable, because I've seen you guys, and I don't know if I met you at any shows, but I met the girls, and I've seen you guys perform in Los Angeles, and I've spent some time with you guys after the shows. And I remember you brought your dog to one of the shows in LA.
Yeah.
What's the little white dog's name again?
Marley.
That's right. Yeah, I was holding Marley. I'm like, should I be holding your dog right now? But you guys are just cool with the fans, and Derek and Susan are the same way, and the rest of their band. And I've met most of them at shows over the years. Just You guys are all very down to earth people, and you wouldn't know that the talent, the level of talent that you guys all have.
Thank you. I mean, that's what being a good person is. If it's an effort, then you're doing something. Then you're already in a problem. For us, it's really not an effort.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I mean, and the biggest proof is, and this is a lesson for everybody. Never every show should be like the Super Bowl. If we would not take that show in March of 16 seriously, it's on St. Patrick's Day. If we would say, "Oh, there's not a lot of people there," because there were like 10 people in the club, okay? And if we would say, "Oh, let's just stop the show. Why are we playing for 10 people? Let's just stop the show and go home." Then when John Burke and Boo Mitchell would come in, they wouldn't see us play. We wouldn't get signed on Stax. And all of this, we would never open for Derek. We would never travel over 15 countries and see the world. So it's important to understand that every interaction in life has a reason, and that you should always do your best, because sometimes out of the smallest chances comes the biggest successes. And that's really what happened to us. It's a classic movie kind of thing. A local band plays at a bar. Here comes the big producer and president of a label, and they see you play and they sign you, and it's people think it's not real, but it is. And we are a living proof of that.
Yeah, but a lot of things add up to that moment through. You got, great attitude and hard work and grinding and paying your dues. I think it's a lot of things go into leading up to that moment that you guys were prepared for. You had great songs. You had the stage presence. You were confident in yourselves. So when that producer walked in, the timing was right because of the things that you guys did on your end as well.
Yeah, no, you are correct. We were definitely going for that. But I mean, thank you. It's just, we're just thankful for all these opportunities that come to us. And, even though this year was supposed to be huge for us, being nominated for a Grammy in January, going to the Grammys and experiencing all that, we were really looking forward to kind of ride the wave in 2020. We had a few more shows with Derek and Susan booked with TTB. We were already on tour with the North Mississippi All-Stars, which are very good friends of ours. Luther recorded a guitar on our first album, on Don't Give Up. We were riding with Cody a lot because he lives here in South Haven in Mississippi, right next to us. And we had to tour with Galactic, and we toured with Los Lobos. We're really, really good friends with Los Lobos. And that was in January and February only. So when the Corona got kind of, in the way, we were really bummed because we were like, okay, this is ruining all of our 2020 plans.
Yeah, you had so much momentum.
Yeah, but then again, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. And we're not we don't feel bad at all. It's all good, it's just disappointing. But I can tell you that we really enjoy our time at home. We would be away in 2000. For me personally, since 2013, for 7 years now, I've been living off a suitcase. If I was home for a week, I ran errands all week, getting ready to leave again. Okay, so and then with Southern Avenue with the girls since 2015, so it's 4 years of being away between 200 to 300 days a year. So we're really enjoying the time at home with the kids and not doing anything. Not that we're really not doing anything, but compared to what we were doing, we're enjoying this time. It's really good for us,
Yeah, that's good. You have a good attitude about things. And again, I really appreciate your time. I'll let you get back to your family and your life. Why don't you tell everyone where they could find you, follow you, plug whatever you want, say if there's, let me know if there's anything else you want to cover that we haven't covered. I'll give you the floor.
We covered a lot, man.
We did cover a lot. Great stories.
You covered a lot. I think, Southern Avenue Music on Google, you'll find the website, the Instagram, the Facebook, follow us. The one thing that we do, we did start during the Corona days is we have a Patreon page, which is basically a subscription-based fan club. If you subscribe for 5, 10, 25, 50, and it goes on and on, a month, you get amazing rewards. We have over 20 videos of cover songs and originals that are done that we don't publish anywhere else. Very kind of, a lot of rewards from signed CDs and LPs, signed lyric sheets, just everything we can think of to give our fans in return for them supporting us during these times. We already have a good amount of people that are in the fan club, we call it VIP fan club. But it really helps. We don't like to do videos with donations, really. We prefer a system where if you donate every month, you get something really beneficial in return. You go to basically just Google Southern Avenue Patreon, and if you can subscribe, even $5 a month helps a lot. And that would be the best way to support us during this time, because this is not going to go away. The music world will suffer for a couple of more years before we can go back to normal.
Yeah, that stinks. But you're doing your best, and that's commendable. So you got no shows really booked for 2021, or have you have looking ahead?
We have stuff for 2020. We're doing a drive-in concert in July around Charlotte. They just canceled September and October, but November we still have a
later
few stuff.
In the year.
Yeah, but I don't know if that will happen. And 2021 we did all the festivals the big concert series, all the big stuff we had for 2020, they moved it to 2021. So hopefully in a year from now we'll be able to do at least outside festivals that don't, that we're not all under the same air conditioned circulation.
Yep.
We're not. Let's say that I'm driving the van like once every 2 weeks just to make sure that he doesn't die on me. You know what I mean? I'm driving the van like every
your van, the tour van.
Yeah, to make sure that the battery doesn't die.
There you go. Put it on your calendar. Drive van.
I feel like the van is upset at me. I feel like he tells me, "Hey, Ori, where have you been? We've been together. You drove me from Vancouver to Memphis, 48-hour straight, and now you don't give me any attention." Do
you ever sleep in the van just for no reason while you're home? You do.
Oh no, wait. No.
Sleep in the van.
No,
you go in the van.
No, I know that I will have opportunities, a lot of them, to do that again.
Right. I hope so. I hope so soon, my friend.
Yeah. No, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It really.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Very generous. Very generous. And I'll let you get going. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, I'll see you soon too, hopefully.
You got it. Take care.
All right, man. Bye.
So there you go. My conversation with Ori Naftaly. That was a lot of fun. I really do appreciate Ori being so generous with his time. It means a lot to me. Beyond just loving talking guitar and music and TTB with Ori, which was awesome, his story was pretty inspiring to me as well. Anyway, hope everyone is doing okay out there during the super fun 2020. For real though, it's been a crazy, sad, strange, and tumultuous year. For now, check out Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. That's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. And of course, remember to tap subscribe or follow on iTunes, Spotify, whichever way you listen to this show. But yeah, that's about all I got for today. And again, thanks for listening. Later.